So we're going to just start off the webinar. So my name is Francis Bligh. I'm from Teagasc, a health and safety specialist. And we are here this evening to have our webinar based on the importance of maintaining positive health and well-being for us as farmers. So to put a focus on that and to have a conversation around it. And we're very lucky to have a great panel of speakers. Our first speaker is Mick O'Dea, a farmer and a haulier, and Mick is going to tell us his story and give us some advice in relation to, positive health and well-being, and the challenges, I suppose, associated with that from a farming perspective and from his perspective. We also have Dr. Diana Van Doorn. Dr. Diana will talk to us about her research in this particular area and pieces of research that she has that she can focus on that gives us some messages about the challenges that we face and the importance that minding our mental health and our well-being is for ourselves as farmers. We have Miss Finola Colgan from Mental Health Ireland and Dr. John McNamara, who will talk to us about the various supports that are available for farmers, who experience some challenges. So they'll talk about that. And at the end, then we'll have some questions and answers. So we'd really encourage everybody to take time to put in some questions for us. So without a further ado, I'd like to introduce Mick O'Dea. You might just turn on your audio, Mick, and just come in closer into the screen, and you might just tell us a little bit about your story. And really, I leave the floor to yourself to talk about that.
Hello, Francis. Can you hear me?
Hello, Mick. How are you?
Not too bad.
Thanks, Mick, for joining us. So you might tell us a little bit about your story.
Yeah, well, sure. The first thing I just want to say, I'm not an expert, but I have my lifetime of suffering with depression and things I learned over the years. I'm just after thinking there a second ago, it's 50 years since I first had depression, and I didn't know what it was at the time. It all started when I was in secondary school. And I struggled along with it all my life, you might say. Be in bad form, get out of it, work away, keep working, everything was grand, get back into it again, in, out. But I got up then, got married, family, everything, good life, but it still wasn't keeping me right. And I got up then onto my mid-40s. And that's when I got tired struggling with it. And Geraldine was a great support to me, my wife, and we started to look for help. And we got help. I went to a lot of counsellors. I went to several 3 or 4 different counsellors over the years. They all spoke to me. Some days I went out from them and I said to myself, they don't know what they're talking about. But now looking back at it all in hindsight, everyone them people that tried to help did actually help. And I think some people out there that don't suffer with depression, their spouses or partners right now, don't actually realise the turmoil a person's mind is in when they're in that dark, bad place. It's hard to explain it. I don't know how graphic you want me to talk here today, but I often lay in bed at night. I had a good wife and a great family, and I often lay in bed at night hoping that I wouldn't wake up in the morning. That's how bad I was. I had preparations made to do something. It was just the mental pain in your head is just unbelievable. I do cringe now when I hear a suicide or someone suffering with depression, because I know what their mind went through. Now, I was very lucky. I had such good support at home. My wife, my kids, and even my grandkids, when they came along. They'd give you an old hug or something like that, and that would perk you up and keep you going. And I just couldn't do anything on them. But there have to be more people to talk about depression and come out about it. This stigma that's going on is that, look, I don't know who can do it, but this thing this evening, I don't mind talking about depression. I don't mind people knowing I had depression or I have depression, because I've come out about it before, and people that met me after it, like, said to God, Mick, I had no clue you suffered. And the amount of people that have talked to me in farmyards, I'm in and out of farmyards every day drawing cattle, the amount of men that have talked to you on a one-to-one that are suffering as well.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable, like, and depression, like, people don't look at it as an illness, or that they think, oh, you're mad, there's something wrong with your head, you're mad. Like, if you hurt yourself, if you break an arm or break a leg, you go to the hospital. You get fixed up. People are not going. Like, there is help out there,
yeah,
but you just have to stay going and stay at it and stay at it and try and get just the thing that works for you. The same thing won't work for everyone. It'll take different things that'll get everyone through it, but people have to stay trying. It's just, when I do hear now of suicide, I do cringe, because there is help there, and there's good people out there willing to help. And it's an awful waste of a life. It's sad, like, it's very sad. And, like, I don't want to stay rambling on about it. I just want to get my story across to people that are suffering out there. For God's sake, go talk to someone. If it's only a friend or a neighbour or a partner, like, there's an old saying, a trouble shared is a trouble halved. Like, just talk. Maybe I talk too much, but still talk. And, like, I just want to put one thing in perspective there now about what depression is like. John knows here, 5 years ago, I got attacked by a bull. I done 4.5 months in hospital. I done 10 weeks of that in an induced coma. I was broke in bits. I survived and I came through it. And when I got out of the coma, I had no muscles left in my legs or arms. I had to learn to feed myself, I had to learn to use me, I had to learn to walk, I had to learn to do it. Right? I was back working, fully working within 12 months of my accident. But that accident, I just want to give you a comparison. If you said to me today that I had to make a choice to take the depression back and suffer with it again, or take the bull back, I'd go with the bull 1,000 times. 1,000 times.
Shows the impact it has.
Now, and like, you know, that's just John or Francis. I'm trying to just tell my story I don't want to go on too long or anything. I'm not used to
No,
this
but
thing.
thank you, Mick, for
But
telling
like
us.
that's now the comparison I can give to people out there. Like I was on death's door for a long time after that accident. I was 12 weeks in intensive care altogether, between coma and intensive care. And it was a walk in the park compared to the depression. Like a lot of people might understand that, but that is the truth. And
You're painting a very
that's what
You're
people
painting a very strong picture, Mick, of it.
Well, like I'm doing it, I'm speaking from the heart. I'm only an ordinary Joe soul. I'm speaking from the heart. That's just the way it is. Like, I don't know what much else to say, only for people, for God's sake, talk to someone. There is always someone willing to listen.
That first step, Mick, that you took, can you tell us a small bit about that? You know, just your own personal decision. Again, I know you've mentioned it, but just to maybe talk a little bit more deeply about it.
About getting the help in that.
Yeah, you know, that's sometimes, I suppose, you know, we really encourage people to talk, but that first conversation, that first time is sometimes the hardest.
Well, to be honest with you, the first time I done anything about it was my father was alive at the time and he was suffering with dementia, and he was seeing a psychiatrist, and I used to take him down to him, and I rang the psychiatrist one day myself, and I said it to him, I wasn't in great form, and he says, Mick, come down to me. And that's when I started off the treatment. Now, then Geraldine was on the phone, or once she was looking for people, counsellors, things like that. And every counsellor I went to did help.
Yeah.
I went to counsellors. I went to a local priest here in the County Laois. He used to help people with. I went to a local nun. She done an awful lot. And I think of her every day, because she said a comment to me at the door one day, coming out. And I think of her every day, because it wasn't for 3 or 4 years after I realised she was right with what she said. You know, and the whole thing is to make that first move and get yourself into the mental health system. There's a system there. It takes, you'll get into it. If you go, just try and have, when you're bad with the depression and you want a bit of help, or you think you want help, get someone with you. Go. There'll be a partner or a friend, because when your mind is in that bad place, you could come in and talk to a psychiatrist, but you don't actually hear half or maybe a third of actually what he says to you. You need someone with you, some support with you for their mind, because your mind is not able to process. And I was very lucky. Gerald, look, I think I tell Gerald regular. We met when we were only 18, right? We, only for her, I don't think I would be here today. I wouldn't have survived life without her. And
support is very important.
Like, since I once I cured the depression, I have an odd bad day still for I'm able to deal with. But as I said to you before, I used to go to bed at night praying that I wouldn't wake up in the morning. Now I go to bed at night and I pray that I live for another 50 years.
Yeah.
That's the difference it made to me. So after that, like, there's not much more I can say, is only ask people to go and get help. It is out there. Talk to someone. Go to your GP. Go to anybody. Get a counsellor there. There's plenty of them. I'd say now, I'm not into technology around, but I'm sure it's not a big job to find one on the internet or whatever nowadays. go talk to someone. It will help. It does help. It takes time, but it does help.
Thank you.
Francis,
Thank you so much.
What else to say? All I'm doing is leading the people to go get help.
Well, we would encourage.
Now, I started going to the Embrace meetings, Embrace Farm, after the accident, and went in there, and now there was people in there. I walked in the first day I went in the crutches. I was grand. There's people in there with catastrophic injuries, right? But they're doing a little bit on depression and that now as well, and talk. But when you go into them meetings, some days there might be 12 people, some days there could be 20. Sit around in the room. Like 5 years ago, Francis, I would not sit in front of this computer and talk to you the way I'm talking now.
Yeah.
But going into them rooms and talk and tell your own story, and you hear a pin drop. Let it be whether people had an accident or whatever, or a bit of depression or whatever. That was an awful great support to me. And it built up my confidence that I was able to come here today to you to talk about this. Because all I want to see is people getting help. What's happening? We can't let it stay going on. Like now, you hear about people dying on the roads and dying everywhere. Like, and there's a lot being done. I don't think there's near enough done for depression.
Okay.
Because there is a lot of people that don't suffer with it and don't realize the turmoil a person's mind is in. It's just that mental pain in their head. I sat for hours in my Jeep on them, and I just couldn't do it on my family.
Yeah.
I just couldn't do it. I had a great wife, I had great kids, great grandkids. I had too much to live for. But it was, if there's any such thing as a survivor of suicide, I am a survivor.
And you're a great advocate for, we like, really appreciate you taking.
No qualifications in anything, just life.
I know, but like the conviction and the strength that you have to come here this evening and take the time out of your busy day to talk to us and to try and, I suppose.
If I only helped a couple of people this evening, if a couple of people only went and got help, that'll do me. I'm happy with that.
Mick, thank you very much. We'll talk to you again in a few minutes. We'll just have just talk to the other speakers, and at the end we'll have a Q&A, a little bit of a group discussion. We'll hear you have so much great messages for us, and we'd be delighted to talk to you again in a few minutes. I'm sure some of the listeners will have some questions for you. So thanks, Mick. So our next speaker is Dr. Diana van Doorn. Diana is a research officer with Teagasc, and Diana will explore the connections between occupational stress, well-being, as identified in the Farmers of Heart's cardiovascular disease program that Diana was leading. So Diana, thank you.
Yes, thank you very much for having me. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Diana,
yeah. Okay, that's great. Can I start, Mick? Thank you very much for your sharing your experiences. That was very powerful, and it's so important to have people like you to start normalizing mental health and to reduce the stigma and to help farmers to seek the support they need. So thank you very much. That was very powerful. I'm going to talk today about a research which explores the relationship between stress and well-being among male dairy farmers. And I do that in response to mental health of farmers has become a significant focus for researchers, policymakers, and stakeholders. And there's many health policy and strategies developed in the recent years, and most of them assume a direct link between reduced stress among farmers and well-being. So that's where I'm looking at today. I have to start. Is my slide moving?
Everything looks perfect.
Yeah, okay,
Down.
because I had the other time that it did move and I kept on talking, but we're in action. Okay, there's a lot of international research on this topic. I look at some of the Irish findings, which showed that 1 in 4 farmers is at risk of burnout. 57% of farmers have faced at least one major stressor in the past 5 years, with dairy farmers reporting the highest levels. 74 in 2018, which came down to 55% in 2021. Major stressors from farmers were weather, workload, and finances. I know there's more. This is just a few of the ranking of the stressors, which several studies have found. And social support, Mick mentioned that as well, was found to play a key role in reducing stress among farmers. So talking a little bit about the methodology of my study, the data I used was collected as part of a health initiative called the Farmers of Heart Cardiovascular Health Programme that included health checks carried out in 2018 with a follow-up a year later. And 2018 was a tough year with very extreme weather conditions which affected farming and might have impacted farmers' stress levels that year. This study used matched baseline and week 52 data. We included 199 dairy farmers and used descriptive data tables to get a clearer picture of changes in stress and well-being over the timetable. And we used something called adjusted standardized residuals to look at which cells were significant. It's important to understand that stress and well-being are personal experiences, and everybody feels and defines stress and well-being differently. And this is why it's important, if you do research, to explain what we mean with these constructs. And in our study, stress was asked by a question. Stress means a situation in which a person feels tense, restless, nervous, or anxious, or is unable to sleep at night because your mind is troubled all the time. Do you feel this kind of stress these days? And farmers could then answer on a scale of 1, not at all, to 5, very often. And this question was asked by a nurse as part of the health check. Well-being was measured using a well-being scale consisting of 7 clear statements measuring emotional well-being and psychosocial functioning. And this was filled out by farmers themselves, and the rating was 1, none of the time, to 5, all of the time. So going to the results of my study, looking at the prevalence of stress at baseline and week 52. At baseline, 57% of the farmers reported moderate stress to some extent. 31 experienced low stress, not at all or only a little. And a small group, 12%, reported stress often or very often. At week 52, the numbers of farmers reporting moderate stress had increased to 66. Farmers reporting no stress, so not at all, increased from 18% to 28%. Farmers reporting only a little stress decreased from 13% to 0%. And high stress often to very often decreased to 6.5%. That shows a very positive picture. And when we look a little bit closer in what these changes mean, we saw that more farmers reported no stress at week 52. Farmers with only a little stress, they went to moderate stress. So they actually increased their stress levels. And farmers who were stressed frequently at the start remained highly stressed. So the conclusion of this is that dairy farmers seem to report lower stress experience overall in the year. However, a significant numbers of farmers transitioned from only a little to some extent, and farmers experience high stress remained feeling that. So looking at well-being, prevalence of well-being at baseline and week 52, 46% of the farmers scored high well-being, good or excellent. 31 scored low well-being, poor or below average. And at week 52, we see that high well-being decreased to 38%, average well-being increased from 24 to 34%, and low well-being slightly dropped from 31 to 28%. But those farmers with poor well-being at the start remained the same. Again, looking closer at what these changes mean, we see that farmers with good well-being often improve to excellent well-being. This suggests that those who begin with high well-being are likely to remain it. Farmers with poor well-being remained in the same category. And then the farmers scoring below average had mixed outcomes. A significant number transitioned from below to average, and others stayed in the below average well-being. So this showed that overall well-being did not drastically decline, although fewer farmers reported high well-being, indicating a shift towards average well-being, and those with poor well-being persisted. So we're going to look at the relationship between stress and well-being at baseline. The figures in the green are most interesting. They are the significant numbers, and these show that low stress, not at all, was significantly associated with excellent well-being. Moderate stress, to some extent, was significantly associated with below average well-being, and high stress often was significantly associated with average well-being. And interestingly, high stress, so the often or very often category, was not significantly associated with poor or below average well-being. So looking at the relationship between stress and well-being at week 52, again, the green number and the red number, that means a negative number. This shows that low stress, not at all, remains significantly associated with excellent well-being. But this relationship at week 52 was less strong, because at baseline it was 3.0 and at week 52, 2.6. Moderate stress was common at week 52, but had no longer a significant association to any specific well-being level. And remember, in baseline, it was significantly associated with below average well-being, but that relationship diminished in week 52. And then the association between moderate stress and excellent well-being was significantly negative. That's the red number, indicating that farmers with moderate stress were less likely to report high levels of well-being. So what does this mean for you? What are the takeaway messages for this? So stress is prevalent, but it doesn't always lead to poor well-being. So many farmers experience stress, but not all of them suffer negative consequences. Some of them are able to cope well and even maintain or improve their well-being despite their stress experience. And therefore, stress affects farmer differently. What important is to mention is that not all stress, because if we're talking about stress, it always has a negative tone, but not all stress is harmful. Occasional stress can help you to stay focused. It can motivate you. It can push you through challenges and getting things done, like meeting deadlines or manage your harvest season, for example, or calving. And this type of stress can help you stay sharp and perform. However, long-term stress or persistent stress is harmful and can have negative effects on your health and your well-being. When stress becomes too much or lasts for a long time, it can wear you down physically and emotionally. And that's when it becomes important to take steps to manage it or seek support, like Mick also said. And in this study, we found a small proportion of farmers reporting consistently high stress. And these are the farmers which are at high risk for mental health issues or physical health issues, because stress has a lot of impact on your heart and your physical health, like your heart, for example, and blood pressure. And these farmers should be the focus of support programs. And specific efforts have to go out to reach these farmers and offer tailored support rather than one size fits all. And please remember, when stress becomes overwhelming, consistent, or too much, seek support when you need it. And social support strengthens resilience. So having good connections with family, friends, and the community help reduce the negative impacts of stress. Farmers who have strong social networks are often better able to cope with challenges and maintain their well-being. So please look out for others isolated, for yourself, others isolated and lonely farmers. And then my last take-home messages is that all farmers experience some extent of stress. Some stressors are seasonal, like they come and are resolved when the conditions get better, like the calving season is over or the weather goes from bad to good. But many stressors tend to be structural in nature, except, for example, around payments. And these stressors require systemic solutions and policy change. So rather than behavior change, what a lot of interventions are focusing on, some stressors just need a policy solution rather than, resilience. That's my presentation for today. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Diana. That was very informative. Great messages there for us to take on board. I suppose that last message that you mentioned there about, the social aspect and the social support, that it kind of really emphasizes and helps people to have that level of resilience. So thank you very much, Diana. And I know that our next speaker, John McNamara, and Finola Colgan will really emphasize or re-emphasize the messages that you've put across. What I would say to our viewers is that please put your comments and questions in the chat, and we'll put it to the speakers. And Diana, at the end, you'll still be with us, so we'll whatever questions come through there, we'll put them to you. Thank you very much, Diana, for a very informative discussion.
Thank you.
So what I might do now is I might ask Dr. John McNamara to share his presentation. John, you can share your presentation there.
No, Francis, no, I haven't done any presentation.
Perfect. Okay.
I just want to make a few comments, and maybe I really want Finola Colgan to talk. But, just the comment I want to make is that, the world has changed, really. 30 years ago, it was all about physical work and getting the work done. Now there's you have the Green Deal and European policy and that, and there's a huge amount of schemes and paperwork and that involved. And the strong point that I want to make is that advisors and consultants and various other people, bank officials, accountants, they're all there to help farmers. So what I would encourage farmers to do from an agricultural point of view is to surround yourselves with a good, strong team of people, the people I've mentioned, but, vets and that, your farming friends, your family, discussion groups, and, that will help you get through the stresses that go with the actual farming. Now, on another note, there is a program sponsored by the Department of Health and the Department of Agriculture and Food and the Marine called On Firm Ground. But On Firm Ground, it's a training course for advisors and consultants on how to signpost farmers towards health. Now, we've maybe about 250 or 300 advisors trained up at the moment, so advisors are increasingly becoming aware of farmers' health and well-being issues And, farmers, feel free to have dialogue with your advisor about this area. I think as Mick has said and as Diana has said, I think the only way we can deal with mental health issues is to, recognize them and take appropriate action on an individual basis. The last point, I think Mick made it as well, but the local GP is the kind of at the gate, as it were, for entry to the health service. So if you're in any doubt where to go or what to do, I suggest that you make contact with your local GP. Okay, Francis, thank you.
Thanks very much for those messages, John. And you're staying with us, John, so you'll be able to help us with the questions in a few minutes. Finola Colgan is our next speaker. Finola is a development officer with Mental Health Ireland, and Finola is going to talk to us about support networks and support information and resources that might be available, that are available for the farming community. So Finola, you might turn on your screen if you're able.
Well, I'm not on my usual. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Oh,
perfect now.
well, you know what? I've got to be sound and no picture.
Perfect. Yeah, we can hear you anyway. So that's the most important
thing. That's the main thing, and absolutely. And it's great listening to what John has just shared with us and the power of and it is what John said. It's a story, and we all have a story, and that story is made up from life and true life events. And I think that's really the important message that's coming from today, that we all have a story, but there's support out there for when that story mightn't feel the best for us. So I want to say a personal thanks to John, and I could listen to you for a while yet. Can I share my screen?
Yes.
I don't know, can I do that?
Second now.
I'm not on my regular computer, but do I need a link for me to share, or?
Can you see share at the bottom of the screen, Finola?
Yeah, I can. Yep. And multiple. Okay, one pen's going to share at a time. Okay, I'll just see now. Also, entire screen. Microsoft window. Okay, and I don't know that it's going to work for me. I have it on. I have it in the background, Francis.
Okay, so you'll have to talk to it if you can't share it, Finola.
Yeah. No, it's fine. No, and I think sometimes we fabulous presentation there from Diane as well, and sometimes it's useful to kind of concentrate the mind and listening. So and John has mentioned about there's lots of supports out there, and it's very important to go out there, and those supports are no good unless you make contact with them. And I think the other point I'm picking up as well, you yourself, you as the person, you have to be the person that makes that connection, and you have to stand up and go and seek the help. So an interesting development has happened in terms of, I think, quite interesting in relation to Teagasc and ourselves. Like, we have the book Coping with the Pressures of Farming, but as you know, Francis and John, we got together and we came up with a whole new leaflet, and it's like a mini book. It's called The Sowing Seeds of Support, Positive Mental Health Guidance for the Farming Community. And that's what's really nice. It's for the farming community. So it's reaching out to families. It's reaching out to, there are farmers that live alone and that. And what the leaflet the information actually realizes, and what we're hearing here today, that farming, we do know it can be challenging due to issues such as drought, and we saw that at the beginning of the year, maybe further shortages, which may be an upcoming issue, I'm not sure, and associated financial issues. And so there are many issues in farming, and like we were talking this morning, as you know, Francis, and the thing is that, like, businesses, self-employed people all have stresses, but farming sets up a completely different set of unique stressors for themselves. And what we're looking at, is, oh, lovely, thanks, John. So have you got that there, John? Yeah. So will we play that video, John? Will it play? You're on mute, John. Yeah. Okay, not to worry. We can go on to the next slide, John. Yeah, thank you.
No.
So that's the Farm Resilience Project. And the aim of that project was to raise farmers' awareness of mental health issues and to provide them with guidance in shaping their everyday lives as well as their entrepreneurial and personal environment. And we will send you the link to that. And we can, like, the thing is that this was a project that involved Ireland, Finland, Germany, Belgium, and Finland and Spain. And what you'll find when you go through this Farm Res program is that whether you're farming in Finland or Germany or Spain, there are lots of problems, there are lots of challenges, but just, you know, and they're unique because they're farm related, say. So we can move on there, John. And so what we were doing in the project is raising awareness, providing information and fostering support and care. And fostering is such an important word, and is a word that you're so familiar with in farming, where you foster out lambs, calves, foals, you know. So it's about fostering your own self-care and your own self-identity. Yeah. And yeah, we can move on, John, thank you. And, you know, basically, and this reflects just what has been said, that this program and what we're talking about here today and the leaflet that Teagasc has provided, Sowing Seeds of Support, it's about improving your farmers' and families' knowledge of mental health. Because it was mentioned there about stigma, but we only create a stigma about something if we talk about it in an unhealthy way, in an unhelpful way. And by talking about depression, anxiety, and listening, you know, what Diana has shared with us is so important because it breaks down those barriers. And then how to access help-seeking supports. I know you talk about neighbours, sometimes that is so important. It could be family, friends, but sometimes you might be just using the helpline. It can be important. And one of the things that can undermine health literacy is, do people understand what mental health is? Do they understand mental illness? Do they think mental health is mental illness? But, you know, being here today is about mental health and having good mental health. Then there's the impact of life events such as mental and physical abuse. Sadly, we know there's suicide in our society across the world. Within the family, suspected suicide, sudden illness, farm accidents, and they all cause their own trauma. And again, one of the key messages is avoidance of burnout, and that's about having good resilience. And good resilience is very basic, doing your best for self-care, looking after yourself, and improving the quality of your life. And by that, what we mean is, do you give yourself an occasional break? Do you take a break one day a week? And if I know that's a difficult thing to do, but if you do take your Sunday or Saturday, that you just do the bare necessities on those days. Do you get a break? Like I was with a farm discussion group, Westmead, this morning. There must have been about 50 guys at it and women. And they were just, when we asked that question, said, well, when the wife organises it. So maybe chance organising it for the wife the next time, or the partner, whoever. And so self-care is really important. So we can move on again there, John. And yeah, so, and I've said that, John, so that's good. We can move on again. Okay, so this I think is an interesting concept. So it's flourishing or languishing. So Professor Corey Keyes did a survey at 1,000 people between the ages of 17 to 84. And when he had that assessment done, psychological assessment, 16% were flourishing, 54% had moderate to good mental health. That 20% had a diagnosis of mental illness. And what were those mental illnesses? It was depression, it was eating disorders, it was schizophrenia, it was psychosis, it was anxiety. And that just tells us mental illness is an illness and it needs to be treated and supported in the same way as heart disease that Diana's talked about, cancer, anything else. And it's the one thing a person owes themselves is to be able to get rid and recover from their illness. And that last 10% is languishing. So what he found then was, when he came back and revisited that study, people that had been flourishing found themselves going across the line there, and people that were languishing came back into being in good health. And in the next slide, we'll see that, what does that look like? So that looks like, if you're just see, can you identify with that? Good mental health is where you feel good about life, you're optimistic about life, you're able to make the changes, you're keeping stress at a low level. And that's just, you know, again, reflecting what Diana has just said, that, you know, when we manage our stress, when we're on top of it, we have to recognize it, but we can manage it. And when you're languishing, and I think farmers understand it best as being stuck in a rut. and what's it like to be stuck in a rut. Like, you know, you don't want to get out of bed, you don't want to attend to the animals, you don't want to fill in forms. It can be difficult. And this is where the On Firm Ground and the advisors that have skilled up in that. And I was with two of them this morning making this presentation, and their passion for that program and their passion to reach out to farmers. And one of them said to me this morning that there was a farmer in a particular crisis and he didn't know where to turn for help, and he picked up the phone and talked to her. And sometimes that's all you need to do. Who can I talk to? Don't feel embarrassed, because that could be me or tomorrow that needs to make that phone call when I have my setbacks. So don't isolate yourself and think, oh my God, what will anybody think? Okay, so we can move on to the last couple of slides, John, if you like, and look at the supports, say, and you know, that's, yeah, how we support ourselves, and we can look at the supports helps there, John. Thanks for doing this. And we can move on from that as well. Yeah, and that, yeah. And yeah, so here we go, the last few slides. So what's the plan to foster mental health and well-being? You know, you have to have your car tested, you have a fire safety notice, farm site notice, you know, there's a very high level of hygiene involved in farming, calling out the vet. But the thing is, what's your NCT? What's your plan for your health? So we're recommending, and it's in the leaflet Sowing Seeds of Support, the 5 ways to well-being, which will come up in the next slide. And so connect, be active, take notice, keep learning, and give. And the give is about giving of your time and doing something kind for somebody. But I think the first kindest thing anybody can do for themselves is be good to themselves. It's good to be compassionate. It's good to be able to support people, but it's much more important to be self-compassionate. So if you can give yourself these 5 ways on a daily basis, the connecting, the talking, you know, connecting with yourself, how you're feeling, having the chat, enjoying the cup of tea, taking the break, going in for maybe a late breakfast. The be active is about being active off the farm. What can you do? What's around in your community? And to take notice, like I was saying again this morning there, I have a farmer for a husband, or husband for a farmer, but I think he thinks he doesn't have a wife, but I do know I exist. But the thing is, though, like last Sunday, I was just at home around the farm, and I just saw like the animals, they were just all there in a field grazing, and all just getting on their way. And I just thought it looked so lovely. And just to be able to kind of recognize that every now and again, you know, the trees that surround your farm, or maybe the sunsets, like just gives you that moment of peace. And then keep learning. Of course, you've always got to keep learning in farming. And that motivates us as well. But the give then is what I've said, like you can give of your time, but give to yourself. That's the most important person. And part of that is what we've just heard. Go out there, get your help, reach out to your doctor if that's the case, or pick up the helpline number that's there, okay? So we're nearly there, John. Thank you. Okay, so we've got this there, links to health and safety, your mentalhealth.ie. You know, when we were developing this, we put in other numbers, like if you need to contact the IFA, you know, text about it. You mightn't want to make a phone call, so you can text where somebody will come back and contact you, say. And the links to the Health and Safety Code. And we know Health and Safety Authority is a big supporter of making sure health and safety on the farm is paramount. Yep. And then we have all these other leaflets, say that'll come up next. Yeah. So again, and John, I had it in my other slide, I didn't get to sending you the image of our new leaflet, Sowing the Seeds, but there's also those leaflets as well. And like the thing is, there is information out there, and maybe, you know, you see it in a stand, but it's no good unless you put your hand and you read it. That's basically the key message, and make use of it. And then the last slide there is, so we might give people time if you want to take a screenshot of that, and so you can download that app, and you can go into, you can, like, it's a very easy app to follow, and you'll get a web link, and there's e-training tools on it, and you can promote, like you can do your own self-assessment. And we have a quality of life survey in there that would answer a lot of the issues that Diana has raised. And we coded it in such a way that you could come out in the green zone, a yellow zone, or the red zone. A bit like the traffic light system. And we know the red is stop and take notice. Yellow, am I going on or going forward? And green, I've moved on. And we did that this morning. It was quite interesting. We did it as a collective. And the really important point made by some of the guys this morning was, you know, today maybe you're in good form and for the next couple of days, but you know, if the weather changes, drought, you know, how you fill in that quality of life survey could matter. So we hope you'll get use of that. And I know Francis and John will be circulating that as well. So would you like to add to that, John, then, in terms of the information? And I'd like to say thanks once again to Teagasc for supporting and allowing us with an opportunity to work with you to get the message of mental health into our rural communities. So important.
No, thank you, Finola. And as you said, we've updated our leaflet, sowing the seeds of support, positive mental health guidance for the farming community. I've taken delivery this morning of 10,000 copies, so we'll be sending them out to all our offices in the next few days. You know, but please don't wait. Like, it's on our website already. If you go into www.teagasc.ie and go into the health and safety site, or even type in sowing the seeds of support, it will come up. Could I just ask a question of Finola, you know, just while I have you there?
Yes.
And Mick made a comment to me just earlier, you know, what about relationships and all this business, working relationships and family relationships and, you know, relationships with neighbours and all of that, you know, in to do with stress and so forth.
John, just while Finola's answering, John, while Finola's answering that question, you might just stop sharing there so we can see.
Okay. Yeah. So working relationships, John. Working relationships are always great when they work well, but I think when you have human beings and people, you'll often have difference of opinions, and perhaps, like, you know, you'll have different relationships within the farm family as well. And especially, you know, and I know it's an issue that Teagasc addresses, and it was being addressed this morning in Mullingar, the whole issue of relationships when it comes to farm succession. There can be different opinions on that, and there's a lot of emotional reaction into that as well, like the letting go, or maybe the watching of, well, what are you going to do next? And there has to be a lot of trust and a lot of work. Like, but I don't like to call it work, but a lot of chat and a lot of awareness. And I don't think it's a decision that can be made overnight either. Oh, I'm going to retire from the farm. And so I think that the working relationships within the family, with guys in the yard, I think, you know, that are helping out in the bigger farms. It's about, again, respecting the law, and I think it's about respecting people's time and place as well. I don't know, Francis, you might like to add to that maybe, because I know you've insights on it as well.
Well, I think Mick has made great points earlier in relation to, you know, the support networks, and when you have a supportive environment at home or in the work environment, it is going to have a positive impact. And I might just maybe refer that on to Mick, maybe for your comment, Mick, in relation to that point.
Well, I'm in the process of doing that.
Sorry, Mick, you mightn't have heard my question, did you?
Yeah, you might repeat it.
Yeah, so it's just in relation to the, you know, the network of people around and the working environment. You know, I know you asked the question, but the importance of having a supportive network at home and fostering that supportive network and being interested in, you know, in sharing, I suppose, and having people help you when you're trying to do the farming activities.
Well, sure, I suppose, look, I'm not the best man in the world to talk about that, like, because I have a good support at home, both from the the kids is right. But a good support from lads, a great support from Geraldine. And I'm in the process at the minute now signing over to the lads and that, because I'm not going to leave them till they're all men before they get the players like. But I'm just lucky I have a great support at home. There's not, but every yard, every farm is different. Like. I just have it, and I'm at my stage now in life. I'm going to let go to the lads. Oh, I'm not retiring. I'm staying working. I'm most definitely not retiring. I'm staying working, but they can take over the mantle from here on in. And that's what I'm doing anyhow. But I have a great support at home, great support with Geraldine. And so that's all I can say.
A question there, Mick, in relation to, you know, what importance would you put on getting away from the farm or leisure activities, or is that something that suits you, or do you recommend it, or what's your thoughts on it?
I was on an airplane last year for the first time in my life.
Okay.
Where did I get? I went to an open day on a calf rearing facility over in England. And as regards holidays, we go on very little holidays, but I get it very hard to explain to people. Even when I was suffering bad with the depression, and that doctor said to me, "Get a hobby, Mick, get a hobby." I got it very hard, but I did get it through eventually. My family, my farm, and my lorries hauling cattle, they are my hobby, because I love every bit of it.
Yeah.
And I don't want or need anything else.
Yeah.
So I'm not a holiday man. We go away, myself and Geraldine go away for an odd weekend, go to a few concerts in Dublin that we like, things like that. But I just love what I'm at. Yeah. So I'm the worst man in the world to ask about taking a break and taking a holiday, because if I said anything about him and Geraldine would go home and the kitchen brush might meet me at the door.
I know, Finola.
Yeah.
Finola, you have your hand raised there.
Thanks. No, it's just to add there to Mick and the question and about taking the break. Like, it is very important to take a break, and this came up for discussion again this morning. If it's like, as one man said, well, I'll take a break if the wife organises it. So, but it is important to get away from the farm. And like, as Mick says, maybe it's just to go to Dublin or just to do something different and to get yourself out of that zone. And because, well, you know, like, I work with Mental Health Ireland, so I have to comply with, and they have to comply with Working Hour Acts and all that goes with that, health and safety and so on. But do farmers have that protection, Francis? Like, who looks after their human resources, who looks after their personal needs? Or if they're struggling, maybe I can pick up a phone and an employment assistance program if that's what I want. But farmers, you know, they're working diligently, but they now must stop and think, how can I also give some quality time to myself? We recognise there are days you can't do that, but for the days that are there, for sure, that's the time to make the move and find that interest. Like, I know I took my husband there to see a concert, and I couldn't but help feel that, you know what, he would have much preferred if there was some horses or cows or something coming out, not what was going on, but nonetheless he enjoyed being away and into the spirit of things, and that's what we must do for ourselves. Yeah, so and I want to say thanks, Mick, for all that you contributed today as well.
The message there is it's all about what you like to do yourself. I think is you know, you identify the activities that are useful for you.
Sorry, I do like going away. Like, you know, I like going to a concert with Gerald. We're going away this weekend. That's a big thing.
Great.
Like, I don't mind. I like getting away an odd time, but usually what happens is in 10 o'clock in the morning when I go away is one of the lads ring Mammy, ring Gerard, Mammy is the caller, ring Gerard, and Gerard, will you throw that lad's phone away? I'd be after ringing 10 times.
Okay.
Were things okay at home?
Good. John, did you raise hand there? Would you like to come in on that?
No, I just want to pick up on a few quick themes, and I'd like to thank Mick and Finola for your comments. Just one quick one, like about let's see, about succession. Succession is a journey. It doesn't happen, in a short space of time. And just to say that Teagasc, we're running a roadshow at the moment of succession events around the country. So you'll find information on that on our website. There's upcoming events on that. But it does need a fair bit of thinking and a fair bit of planning. The other point I just want to make about getting a break, I think it's absolutely vital. But I think very often workload gets in the way, which I think regrettably can be a life sentence. If you can't get away from the farm because you have to work, the whole time. So it's about, figuring out some way of cutting the work or getting some bit of support to let you off the farm. And like, it's invaluable to get off the farm and go hill walking or go forest walking or do whatever you want to do. Thank you. Yeah.
So Finola, sorry, Diana, I know that you have been answering some of the questions there in the background. Just one additional question there that was added is in relation to to be able to identify people that do need support, and have you advice on that, or what is the stats and how do we kind of identify and how do we support those people?
Yes, you see, that is the challenge to find these people who are, in the persistent stress. And the first discussion went on this, as in how can we reach certain farmers who have not, the lonely farmer, the single farmer maybe, who is, very remote working and doesn't have that support network or family around that person. So an outreach approach is very important, to a specific target approach to reach certain farmers. And I think it's very important that to integrate mental health and these checks in health promotion initiatives which are already going, or integrating, like, projects like On Firm Ground, or which trains advisors, because you guys are on the ground. You meet these farmers, and peer monitoring, for example, look out for each other in discussion groups as well. I think these webinars like this as well, and Mick talking about it, it is so important to normalize this conversation, because then this can be a conversation you can have, as in when you ask someone, how are you? They actually are not afraid to tell you how they are, and you can signpost, or you can help them to support systems where needed. But those farmers are very vulnerable. I remember from the Farmers Have Hearts that, the question, what is your marital status? That could be farmers breaking down. They were that lonely, because they didn't have, they were just alone. So that is a group of farmers I feel we really need to look after.
Yeah, thank you, Diana. And I know, Mick, you've mentioned it a little earlier in your talk about the conversations that you have with farmers, as you're picking up cattle and you're going maybe through marts, and that, that short chat can be very impactful for a farmer that is feeling a little bit lonely.
God, it can, but you see, there's a thing out there, I suppose, with farmers. Oh, we're big hardy men. We shouldn't suffer with mental health. It's a kind of, you're letting down yourself, or it's, men are just not able to give into it, or women either, like, they're just not able to give into it, like, some people try to keep up the hard exterior. And another thing too is, I'd say some people actually mightn't understand what's going on, what's wrong with me. Look, I don't know. I'm not an expert on it. All I can do is say what I think.
Yeah.
But, that's it out there with farmers. Like, just to go back to a thing there about the holidays, I suppose I'm a bit different than an ordinary farmer. because we have the cattle haulage business as well, right? Now, when I go over here to see him and getting into the lorry, and I'm going to Ballyheigue in Kerry and Ballybunion in Kerry to collect cattle, right? So I am out.
You were on
I'm
holiday.
not sitting in the yard at home the whole time. I am out on the road. I love it. But it probably maybe is a release valve for myself, like why I don't need holidays as such or much breaks. Sure, I'm on as some lads would say to me, you're sitting on your backside every day, you know. So that's all I can say. That is a good help to me, like. But for the farmer that's at home, the single farmer especially that's at home and doesn't meet people, and they don't know what's actually going on outside the farm gate. Them are the most vulnerable people, I think, anyhow. People that haven't connection with people, maybe not married. They're the dangers. You know.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say, Francis.
Well, I think you've said a lot, Mick, and we're very appreciative of you taking your time here today. And I suppose that message of talking and every farmer that takes on responsibility to talk to your neighbours and to the people around you, that conversation helps everybody. It's collectively rises everybody and connects with everybody.
Sorry, it's amazing the support that he's there. They'll be from neighbours, friends, family, anyone. When you do talk about it. Like, you're not going to get support unless you know people, let people know you're suffering.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of people out there to help you if you're suffering. There's plenty of people in your local area that will chat to you and will talk to you.
So, Mick, we might finish. I know we're nearly 7 or 8 minutes gone over time at this stage. What I'd like to do first of all is to say that to all our viewers, thank you for staying with us and the questions that you put forward in the chat. What I'd also like to say is that for further information, on the Teagasc website, there's a large amount of information in each of the Teagasc offices. Have booklets and information, and as was said, all advisors, Teagasc and private advisors, are a connection for people that wish to talk. In addition to that, then, Finola, you have provided a large amount of information on the supports that Mental Health Ireland supply and all the other organisations that are there. And as Mick said earlier, once you make that decision to talk and to connect and to say that you need a little bit of help, there is help there, and that's one of the strong messages that we have for this evening. So. With further ado, I'd like to say thank you to Mick. You'd like to say something else?
Or team, I don't know whether I should do it or not, but I'm going to do it. I'm not 1,000% sure today, but there's an Embrace Farm meeting in the next couple of weeks in the Tullamore Court Hotel in Tullamore. Now, they may go onto the website, I forget the date, and it's of a Saturday evening and it's not at 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
And I know well the lads in Embrace. The door is wide open for anyone. It's very informal. If anyone wants to walk in and sit down and talk or tell their story, or if they only want to sit there. So if they go into the Embrace website, they'll be able to get the exact details of it.
And if anyone wants to talk to ourselves or to any of the offices, we'll be able to get that information for farmers as well about the time and date of that Embrace Farm meeting. So thank you very much, Mick, for telling us your story and your journey. We really appreciate it. Thank you to Diana for the great presentation and the information that you've provided us with. And thank you to Finola, Mental Health Ireland, for your continued support and for joining us here today. I know it's a very busy day for you. So we really appreciate your support and help. And finally, John McNamara, who was the driving force behind this webinar, and we really appreciate you for making this happen and all the effort that you put into this particular area, and the supports that are available within Teagasc. And we really want to kind of continue that work. So thank you, everybody, and we'll conclude on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Francis.